You already know what this feels like. Someone didn't reply to your message. And right now, without you realizing it, your brain is treating that the same way it would treat getting punched. Not as a metaphor, literally, in the exact same regions. And we have the brain scans to prove it. You send a message, 5 minutes pass. Nothing, 30 minutes. Still nothing, 1 hour. You've checked your phone 11 times. You know it's 11 because somewhere around refresh number 6, you started counting. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. You're not even sure what you're hoping to see. You just keep checking over and over. Like the answer to a question you haven't fully formed yet. One message, one person, one tiny glowing rectangle. And your entire nervous system has called an emergency board meeting. There are slides. Someone made a pie chart of how many times you've checked your phone. The numbers are not good. The explanation for why this happens has nothing to do with your personality, nothing to do with your attachment style, nothing to do with how much therapy you may or may not need. It goes back about 2 million years, and it starts with a stickman standing alone on a plain. Picture him, early human, no shelter, no weapons strong enough to fight anything larger than his own anxiety. No DoorDash. Truly a dark time. Now picture what happens when that stickman gets separated from his group. He doesn't just feel lonely, he's in actual danger. No tribe meant no fire. No food. No one watching his back when something with very large teeth decided he looked like a convenient dinner. Being part of the group wasn't a social preference. It was the difference between surviving the night and becoming a cautionary cave painting. So that stickman's brain built something, an alarm system, specifically designed to detect any sign of social disconnection and treat it like a 5-alarm emergency requiring immediate action. That brain is now your brain. The alarm system is still fully operational. It has absolutely no concept of what an iPhone is. Imagine tiny stickmen living inside your skull, hard hats, monitoring station, watching every social interaction like air traffic controllers in the middle of a Category 4 hurricane. Someone smiles at you. Green light. Someone waves back. Green light. You send a message and get an instant reply. Green light, green light, green light. The tiny stickmen are genuinely thriving. But then, you send a message. No reply. One of the tiny stickmen slowly sets down his coffee. 5 minutes. 10. 20. He picks up a tiny phone and calls his supervisor. 30 minutes. Someone pulls a lever. Deep in your brain, a very small but extraordinarily loud alarm begins to wail, and that alarm is not messing around. In 2003, a research team at UCLA ran what might be the strangest experiment in the history of neuroscience. They put participants inside brain scanners and had them play a video game called Cyberball. 3 players, a digital ball, passing it back and forth. Nothing about this sounds important yet. Then, halfway through the game, the other 2 players stopped throwing the ball to the test subject. That was the whole experiment. Someone got excluded from a digital ball-tossing game with players who weren't even real. And the brain scans showed something that made the scientists stop and look at each other. The exact same regions that activate when you feel physical pain, when you burn your hand on the stove, when you stub your toe at 3 am in the dark. Those exact same regions lit up when someone was left out of a fake video game. The brain did not care that the players were computer-generated, did not care that no actual ball existed, did not care that the entire scenario was invented by researchers in a lab. To the brain, being left out is being left out. Same alarm, same pain response, same everything. Now here's where it stops being just interesting and starts being genuinely bizarre. Being ignored doesn't just hurt, it makes your brain start talking loudly to itself. Picture Stickman at his desk. Message sent. No reply. Thought bubbles erupting above his head like popcorn. They're busy. Did I say something weird? They definitely saw it. Did I say something weird 2 months ago that they're only now finished processing? Wait, what did I say 2 months ago? Stickman is now scrolling back through conversation history from February. It's currently September. This isn't Stickman being dramatic. This is a documented psychological response called uncertainty intolerance. And it is one of the most exhausting things the human brain is capable of doing to itself. Here's the mechanism. Your brain is a prediction machine. Its entire job, every second of every day, is to model the world and predict what happens next. It needs data. It needs signal. When the signal disappears, the brain doesn't go quiet. It panics. And a panicking brain doesn't generate calm, reasonable possibilities. It generates worst-case scenarios. Because for your ancestors, optimism had a cost. Ancestor hears rustling in the bushes, thinks, probably nothing. Let's keep walking. There's a real chance that ancestor gets eaten. Ancestor hears rustling, thinks, that could absolutely be something trying to kill me. That ancestor survives, tells the story, passes on the brain. So the brain defaulted to danger, burned it in deep over millions of years, made pessimism the first move whenever the signal went dark. The bushes are rustling. The bushes are a read receipt from 6:12 p.m. And here's a question worth pausing on. Drop this one in the comments. What's the longest you've waited for a reply before you started genuinely spiraling? Because I suspect some of you have very, very specific answers measured in hours and minutes. Now, the invention that took this ancient problem and made it significantly worse. For most of human history, social exclusion revealed itself slowly. You walked past someone on the trail and noticed they looked away. You realized nobody saved you a spot by the fire. The signals were gradual, ambiguous, easy to rationalize. Your brain had wiggle room. Maybe they didn't see me. Maybe they were distracted. And then engineers built read receipts. Picture Stickman checking his phone. The word delivered sits there, neutral, unbothered, minding its business. And then it changes. Read, 6:12 p.m. The tiny stickmen inside the brain see this update, and they completely lose it. Because this is no longer ambiguity. This is confirmed, time-stamped, irrefutable data. They read it at 6:12. It is now 7:04. That is 52 minutes. One stickman has already converted this to seconds. It's 3,120. Another has filed a formal incident report. A third is drafting a follow-up message that he will absolutely not send, but cannot stop writing. What read receipts did, what all of social media did, was transform a slow, human-paced social signal into something instantaneous and surgical. We handed 2 million-year-old alarm systems a real-time rejection dashboard with timestamps and delivery confirmations and typing indicators that appear and then disappear. Nobody asked if the brain was ready for the typing indicator. It was not ready for the typing indicator. Now, the fact that stops people cold. Researchers found that the pain of social exclusion travels the same neural pathways as physical pain, not similar pathways, the same ones. And someone decided to test something that sounds almost too strange to be a real scientific experiment. They gave participants Tylenol before a social rejection scenario. Regular, over-the-counter. Costs $3 at CVS. Tylenol. The emotional pain went down. Picture Stickman getting left out of the group chat. Stickman walking to the medicine cabinet. Stickman reading the back of the bottle with the focused expression of a man who has just discovered something important about his own neurology. Somewhere in a university lab, a neuroscientist is nodding so hard his glasses fell off, and he has not yet noticed. To the brain, a snub and a bruise run the same system, same alarm, same pathways. Apparently, same off switch. Let that sink in for a second. A $3 pain reliever partially fixes the feeling of being left out, which means the feeling of being left out is, at least in part, a physical event happening inside your body. Here's what all of this adds up to. Most people think they hate being ignored because they need attention, because they're sensitive, because something is slightly wrong with them. The science says something different. You hate being ignored because your brain is running survival code that was written over 2 million years and cannot be patched through willpower. Code that reads social disconnection not as an inconvenience, but as a potential threat requiring immediate resolution. And there's one final thing worth understanding before we're done. Most people find being ignored worse than being rejected. And the reason is precise. Rejection is information. Rejection closes the loop. The tiny stickmen update their threat assessment. The alarm stands down. The brain knows what it's working with and can start adapting. Being ignored leaves every loop open. The alarm keeps running. The scenarios keep multiplying. The brain keeps burning energy on a threat it cannot measure because the data never arrived. Uncertainty is more exhausting than bad news. The brain can adapt to almost anything it can name. What it cannot handle, what costs it the most, is the silence where an answer should be. And being ignored is, at its core, exactly that. Sustained silence, where an answer should be. So here's the last question, and this one I actually want you to answer below. What's worse for you, being rejected directly or being left on read and never knowing? There's no right answer, but there is a neurological one. The world your brain was built for no longer exists, but the brain is still showing up to a job that ended 10,000 years ago. And so today, something much older than smartphones is still watching the entrance to the cave, still counting who's by the fire, still running ancient calculations about what it means that you're not. If our brains are still reacting to social threats from thousands of years ago, how many of our emotions are actually messages from a world that no longer exists?